Thanksgiving, 1925, by the President of the United States of America, a proclamation. The season approaches when, in accordance with a long-established and respected custom, a day is set apart to give thanks to Almighty God for the manifold blessings which His gracious and benevolent providence has bestowed upon us as a nation and as individuals. We have been brought with safety and honor through another year, and through the generosity of nature, He has blessed us with resources whose potentiality and wealth is almost incalculable. We are at peace at home and abroad. The public health is good. We have been undisturbed by pestilences or great catastrophes. Our harvests and our industries have been rich in productivity. Our commerce spreads over the whole world, and labor has been well rewarded for its remunerative service. As we have grown and prospered in material things, so also should we progress in moral and spiritual things. We are a God-fearing people who should set ourselves against evil and strive for righteousness in living and observing the golden rule. We should, from our abundance, help and serve those less fortunately placed. We should bow in gratitude to God for His many favors. Now, therefore, I, Calvin Coolidge, President of the United States, do hereby set apart Thursday, the 26th day of November next, as a day of general thanksgiving and prayer, and I recommend that on that day the people shall cease from their daily work, and in their homes or in their accustomed places of worship, devoutly give thanks to the Almighty for the many and great blessings they have received, and to seek His guidance, that they may deserve a continuance of His favor. In witness whereof I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the United States to be affixed, done at the city of Washington, this 26th day of October, in the year of our Lord 1925, and of the independence of the United States of America, the 150th. I got this proclamation from the Pilgrim Hall Museum in Plymouth, Massachusetts. One thing about Calvin Coolidge was that he was a nationalist. He had a great respect for the status and for American citizens, as exhibited by this quote. From Freedom and its Obligations at Arlington National Cemetery, May 30th, 1924. American citizenship is a high estate. He who holds it is the peer of kings. It has been secured only by untold toil and effort. It will be maintained by no other method. It demands the best that men and women have to give, but it likewise awards to its partakers the best that there is on earth. To attempt to turn it into a thing of ease and inaction would be only to debase it. To cease to struggle and toil and sacrifice for it is not only to cease to be worthy of it, but is to start a retreat toward barbarism. No matter what others may say, no matter what others may do, this is a stand that those must maintain who are worthy to be called Americans. As I said, Coolidge was a nationalist. He took care of America first, realizing that we can't take care of the rest of the world unless our own house is in order. And this nationalism is exhibited in the following quote. Our country has one cardinal principle to maintain in its foreign policy. It is an American principle. It must be an American policy. We attend to our own affairs, conserve our own strength, and protect the interests of our own citizens. But we recognize thoroughly our obligation to help others, reserving to the decision of our own judgment the time, the place, and the method. We realize the common bond of humanity. We know the inescapable law of service. Coolidge was not a free trader. He believed in using tariffs if necessary. He respected the place of labor, and he respected labor. And he had a chapter in his book, Foundations of the Republic, entitled The High Place of Labor. He realized that the industrial magnates of the day in management had to be taken care of, but he also realized that labor had to be taken care of also. Everyone had to be included. In his speech, Have Faith in Massachusetts, that he gave as president of the Massachusetts State Senate on January 7, 1914, he said the following: "The general welfare cannot be provided for in any one act, but it is well to remember that the benefit of one is the benefit of all, and the neglect of one is the neglect of all. The suspension of one man's dividends is the suspension of another man's pay envelope." And then he went on to say, "Laws must be justified by something more than the will of the majority. They must rest on the eternal foundation of righteousness." That is a wonderful speech. Have Faith in Massachusetts. It is a national treasure, in my opinion. If you can, you should take a look at it. Google it. Have Faith in Massachusetts by Calvin Coolidge. I think the Calvin Coolidge Memorial Foundation has it on their website. More Coolidge quotes. What have we got here? On immigration. "We have been, and propose to be, more and more American. We believe that we can best serve our own country and most successfully discharge our obligations to humanity by continuing to be openly and candidly, intensely, and scrupulously American. If we have any heritage, it has been that. If we have any destiny, we have found it in that direction. All artificial distinctions of lineage and rank are cast aside. We all rejoice in the title of Americans, but this is not done by discarding the teachings and beliefs or the character which have contributed to the strength and progress of the peoples from which our various strains derived their origin, but rather from the acceptance of all their good qualities and their adaptation to the requirements of our institutions. None of those who come here are required to leave any good qualities behind, but they are rather required to strengthen and fortify them and supplement them with such additional good qualities as they find among us. While it is eminently proper for us to glory in our origin and to cherish with pride the contributions which our race has made to the common progress of humanity, we cannot put too much emphasis on the fact that in this country we are all bound together in a common destiny. We must all be united as one people. The principle works both ways. As we do not recognize any inferior races, so we do not recognize any superior races. We all stand on an equality of rights and of opportunity, each deriving just honor from his own worth and accomplishments. On constructive economy, what all these efforts mean would be greatly underestimated if it be thought that they begin and end with the saving of money. Considered in their entirety, they play an important part in the wonderful American experiment for the advancement of human welfare. It is the material groundwork on which the whole fabric of society rests. All of this effort represents not merely the keeping of our money, but the keeping of our faith. One of the chief dangers to the success of popular government is that it will throw away self-restraint and self-control and adopt laws which, being without sound economic foundation, bring on such a financial distress as to result in want, misery, disorder, and the dissolution of society. At one point, President Coolidge commented, "We must have no carelessness in our dealings with public property or the expenditure of public money. Such a condition is characteristic of either an undeveloped people or of a decadent civilization. America is neither. It stands out strong and vigorous and mature. We must have an administration which is marked not by the inexperience of youth or the futility of age, but by the character and ability of maturity. We have had the self-control to put into effect the budget system, to live under it and in accordance with it. It is an accomplishment in the art of self-government of the very highest importance. It means that the American government is not a spendthrift, and that it is not lacking in the force or disposition to organize and administer its finances in a scientific way. To maintain this condition puts us constantly on trial. It requires us to demonstrate whether we are weaklings or whether we have strength and character. It is not too much to say that it is a measure of the power and integrity of the civilization which we represent. The body politic has little chance of choosing patriotic officials who can administer its financial affairs with wisdom and safety unless there is a general diffusion of knowledge and information on elementary economic subjects sufficient to create and adequately to support public opinion. Everyone ought to realize that the sole source of national wealth is thrift and industry, and that the sole supply of the public treasury is the toil of the people. Truth dissipates misunderstanding and misconception. It is the function of a free press not only to make the truth available to everyone within its sphere, but to cherish and develop a public sentiment for all that is loyal to the truth. A free and enlightened press, by this means, becomes one of the safeguards of liberty. The people have borne with uncomplaining courage the tremendous burden of national and local taxation. These must both be reduced. The taxes of the nation must be reduced now as much as prudence will permit, and expenditures must be reduced accordingly. High taxes reach everywhere and burden everybody. They gear most heavily upon the poor. They diminish industry and commerce. They make agriculture unprofitable. They increase the rates on transportation. They are a charge on every necessary of life. Of all services which the Congress can render to the country, I have no hesitation in declaring to neglect it, to postpone it, to obstruct it by unsound proposals, is to become unworthy of public confidence and untrue to public trust. Another element must be secured in the training of citizenship, or all else will be in vain. All of our learning and science, our culture and our arts will be of little avail unless they are supported by high character, unless there be honor, truth, and justice. Unless our material resources are supported by moral and spiritual resources, there is no foundation for progress. A trained intelligence can do much, but there is no substitute for morality, character, and religious convictions. Unless these abide, American citizenship will be found unequal to its task. America has had its revolution and placed the power of government squarely, securely, and entirely in the hands of the people. For all changes which they may desire, for all grievances which they may suffer, the ballot box furnishes a complete method and remedy. Into their hands has been committed complete jurisdiction and control over all the functions of government. For the most part, our institutions are attacked in the name of social and economic reform. Excuse me. Unless there be some teaching of sound economics in the schools, the voter and taxpayer are in danger of accepting vague theories which lead only to social discontent and public disaster. Nothing is finer than the open hand and the generous heart that's prompt, free, and unselfish giving. But modern social science knows also that ill-directed charity is often directly responsible for encouragement of pauperism and mendicancy. The best service we can do for the needy and the unfortunate is to help them in such manner that their self-respect, their ability to help themselves, shall not be injured but augmented. Nobody is necessarily out merely because he is down, but being down, nobody gets up again without honest effort of his own. The best help that benevolence and philanthropy can give is that which induces everybody to help himself. It is not through selfishness or wastefulness or arrogance, but through self-denial, conservation, and service that we shall build up the American spirit. This is the true constructive economy, the true faith on which our institutions rest. No method or procedure has ever been devised by which liberty could be divorced from local self-government. No plan of centralization has ever been adopted which did not result in bureaucracy, tyranny, inflexibility, reaction, and decline. While we ought to glory in the Union and remember that it is the source from which the states derive their chief title to fame, we must also recognize that the national administration is not and cannot be adjusted to the needs of local government. It is too far away to be informed of local needs, too inaccessible to be responsive to local conditions. The states should not be induced by coercion or by favor to surrender the management of their own affairs. The federal government ought to resist the tendency to be loaded up with duties which the states should perform. Nothing is easier than the expenditure of public money. It does not appear to belong to anybody. The temptation is overwhelming to bestow it on somebody. But the results of extravagance are ruinous. The property of the country, like the freedom of the country, belongs to the people of the country. They have not empowered their government to take a dollar of it except for a necessary public purpose. But if the Constitution conferred such right, sound economics would forbid it. Nothing is more destructive of the progress of the nation than government extravagance. It means an increase in the burden of taxation, dissipation of the returns from enterprise, a decrease in the real value of wages, with ultimate stagnation and decay. The whole theory of our institutions is based on the liberty and independence of the individual. He is dependent upon himself for support, and therefore entitled to the rewards of his own industry. He is not to be deprived of what he earns, that others may be benefited by what they do not earn. What he saves through his private effort is not to be wasted by government extravagance. If you at times grow weary of the constant stress put on economy, you will see that something more is involved than can be measured in dollars and cents. The spirit of real constructive economy is something higher and nobler. It does not imply so much a limitation as an attempt to be free from limitation. It does not contemplate curtailing ample supplies for worthy purposes and real needs, but it is the enemy of waste and the ally of orderly procedure. It is an attempt to increase and enlarge the scope of the individual and the life of the nation. Society is in much more danger from encumbering the national government beyond its wisdom to comprehend or its ability to administer than from leaving the local communities to bear their own burdens and remedy their own evils. Our local habit and custom is so strong, our variety of race and creed is so great, the federal authority is so tenuous, that the area within which it can function successfully is very limited. The wiser policy is to leave the localities, so far as we can, possessed of their own sources of revenue and charged with their own obligations. The people have borne with uncomplaining courage the tremendous burden of national and local taxation. These must both be reduced. The taxes of the nation must be reduced now as much as prudence will permit, and expenditures must be reduced accordingly. High taxes reach everywhere and burden everybody. They gear most heavily upon the poor. They diminish industry and commerce. They make agriculture unprofitable. They increase the rates on transportation. They are a charge on every necessary of life. Of all services which the Congress can render to the country, I have no hesitation in declaring to neglect it, to postpone it, to obstruct it by unsound proposals, is to become unworthy of public confidence and untrue to public trust. And an excellent closing, a wonderful quote from President Coolidge. There is no way by which we can substitute the authority of law for the virtue of man. Of course, we endeavor to restrain the vicious and furnish a fair degree of security and protection by legislation and police control. But the real reform which society in these days is seeking will come as a result of our religious convictions, or they will not come at all. Peace, justice, humanity, charity, these cannot be legislated into being. They are the result of divine grace.